Hi folks, today we're going to be responding to Vangelina Skov, or however the hell you pronounce her name. I'm not particularly familiar with who she is or what she does, but she's apparently come out to White Knight for Adam McIntyre. I looked through her channel and she's already made quite a few videos about me, all relying on the same tired narrative that Adam uses, just recycling the same talking points basically, saying that I'm a flop, that I'm unfunny, that my channel is irrelevant, blah, 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 the usual BS coming from low IQ people like them. Now, none of it is based on substance. I think it goes without saying. It's just pure ad hominem attacks aimed at me personally with zero engagement of what I actually say in my videos. And as you'll see today, she's very much like Adam and people of his ilk. They're smear merchants. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. She provides zero substance. And needless to say, her response follows the exact same pattern we've come to expect from people like Adam. There's very little logical reasoning, very little critical engagement, and absolutely no rebuttal of my actual arguments. In fact, her video is just reaction-style commentary anchored in personal derision and credential signaling, where she repeatedly says things like, "I can critically analyze studies," as though asserting that somehow proves her points. Needless to say, it doesn't. The video is dominated by motive attribution, tone policing, ridicule, and just clear misinterpretation of all of my claims. And unironically, it ends in self-promotion. Yes, Patreon plugs, despite centering itself around the topic of child sexual abuse, which is especially grotesque, and it tells you everything you need to know about the ethical framework these people operate under. Now, all that being said, let's be clear about something at the get. They are doing exactly what they accuse me of doing. They are grifters. They're monetizing this topic, this sensitive topic. They're exploiting it for views and Patreon subscriptions. My videos on this topic get a few thousand views at most. I'm responding for the love of the game, basically. Meanwhile, these folks are actively monetizing, pitching their Patreons, and turning this topic into a revenue stream. And yet, I'm the one being accused of grifting. That alone should raise alarm bells for anyone actually paying attention to this subjective reality. Now, all that said, she systematically refuses to engage in my thesis throughout the video. She doesn't rebut it. She actually reacts around it. And while we could speculate as to why, we'll save speculation for the end. Let's instead start out with her core strategy. Now, she opens with a preemptive appeal to authority, just pure ethos without proof. She says she can't make jokes, but she can critically analyze studies, specifically psychology. Therefore, she's automatically better than me. Folks, if you have to start a video by appealing to authority, that's one of the weakest positions you can take. Asserting authority in this manner is not demonstrated authority. At no point does she establish academic credentials, training in statistics, epidemiology, criminology, or research design. No, in fact, she claims competence before ever even showing it, which is rhetorically convenient, but absolutely logically empty. Now, immediately after that, she pivots into ad hominem framing. From the first minute, she calls me a grifter. She fixates on my past content, cat ears, irrelevant news, aesthetics, reputation, view counts, the whole 9 yards. She treats all of this as though it somehow discredits the data that I presented in my video. And as everyone knows, when someone relies on ad hominem attacks, it's because they don't have an argument. When you combine an appeal to authority with ad hominem attacks, that's basically an admission of intellectual bankruptcy. And she does this out the gate. She then declares my content boring, embarrassing, malicious, without ever offering any sort of reasoning to back it up. More importantly, she never addresses my central thesis in my video. She never engages with my framing. She never addresses the per-capita logic. She never addresses a distinction between orientation, victimization, and offender behavior. You see, her video is not meant to debate anything I said. It's just pure character assassination used as a substitute for argument, which is why, predictably, just like Adam, she keeps circling back to view counts and the flop narrative. She repeats, facts don't care about your feelings, parroting Ben Shapiro, while spending nearly 40 minutes responding to something she claims is irrelevant. That contradiction in and of itself demolishes her entire credibility. She even admits at one point that Adam's reaction is a catalyst for her video, which makes it obvious this is just a self-reinforcing drama loop. It's a circle jerk. Just a group of people addicted to attention, outrage, and validation, hyping each other up across continents with zero substance to back any of their outrage. This is the clearest mirror of the modern left you could possibly hold up. No argument, no thought, no data engagement, only emotion, outrage, and performative morality. And yes, I expect more of them to melt down over this because that's all they have left. It's the party of retardation. Meanwhile, I'm presenting data and inviting honest conversation about a serious topic, child sexual abuse, and the protection of predators within the gay community. I actually care about this issue. These people don't. They want to milk it for attention. And the irony deepens when she accuses me of chasing attention while openly admitting she jumped in purely because of the attention surrounding the interaction between me and Adam. That makes her a dishonest interlocutor from the outset. Now, all that said, let's get to what really matters in the situation, her handling of the data I presented. Now, she relies almost entirely on citation pedantry. She nitpicks publication dates, reprint sources, Psychiatry Online versus Mayo Clinic proceedings, and whether I linked correctly. These are clerical issues, not substantive refutations. At no point does she claim the figures are fabricated. She doesn't dispute any of the samples I present. She doesn't dispute the victim counts. She doesn't dispute the offender distributions. Correcting citation formatting does not negate the findings. This is what people do when they can't attack the data. They attack the source. They attack the messenger. She then repeatedly strawmans my arguments, claiming I said gay men are more likely to offend, that I said being gay makes someone dangerous. That is demonstrably false based on my own words in the video that she's reacting to. I explicitly state that adult orientation does not equal offender behavior and victimization does not equal perpetration. I'm discussing patterns, overrepresentation, and institutional silence. She instead chooses to attack a claim I never made in the first place because engaging with my actual claim would require confronting uncomfortable realities, which is why she also attempts to accuse me of committing an ecological fallacy while clearly not understanding what one is. My argument explicitly distinguishes between offender populations and the general population and uses per capita comparison correctly. She says, that's not what the study says, while repeating exactly what the study reports and then projecting intent I never actually claimed. That's projection, folks, not actual correction, which is what brings us to the cell phone of the century, okay? Because she argues that victimization increases likelihood of later offending, acknowledges that gay men report higher victimization, and then somehow thinks this magically undermines my point when it literally reinforces everything I've been saying. She concedes the patterns, she concedes the relevance of victimization, and concedes the legitimacy of asking casual questions while simultaneously claiming those questions are illegitimate when I ask them, right? That's an internal contradiction so severe it borders on parody. So congratulations, Vangelina. You literally just owned yourself. And like Adam, she relies on mockery, speed-ups, interruptions, sarcasm, and declaring boredom during the data section. Folks, that's not confidence. That's discomfort. If my argument were weak, she'd slow it down and dismantle it bit by bit. She can't, so she rushes through it and cherry picks what she can respond to because she can't respond to most of it. She also relies heavily on motive attribution, claiming that I don't believe what I say, that I'm chasing attention, provoking Adam, rage baiting. None of that affects the truth value of the data. Even if every motive she imagined were true, it would not disprove the numbers I presented, the patterns, or the accountability question, okay? This is textbook genetic fallacy. But that's not where it ends with her, folks, because obviously she wants to keep giving us more to laugh at. She makes absurd false equivalences, comparing per capita offender overrepresentation to all white people are offenders. That analogy fails because I'm not claiming causation, not generalization to all members, and not assigning guilt. I'm discussing documented disproportions and silence around them, which is probably why all she has left in her arsenal is rhetorical misdirection of the sort. Which brings me to my final point, the core issue she never addresses. My central claim that certain communities aggressively shut down uncomfortable conversations, creating insulation from accountability, especially when it comes to this topic, the gay community, child sexual abuse, and protecting predators. She never engages with any of this. Instead, she reframes everything as ego injury and declares the topic irrelevant. Imagine calling child sexual abuse irrelevant. That alone proves my point, which brings me to the most disgusting part of her video. She then ends by promoting her Patreon, monetizing the topic while accusing me of grifting. That hypocrisy speaks for itself, folks. She claims moral superiority while asking for money, begging for money, admits the monetization, and still accuses me of financial motives. That contradiction is fatal. Look, if she had any reputation, that would have ended it. Bottom line, her video attacks who I am, not what I actually argued. It misrepresents my claims, fixates on tone and views, concedes key premises while denying conclusions. It never disputes the data. It never addresses the silence thesis. and ends by doing exactly what she accuses me of doing. This is not a rebuttal, folks. It's a defensive reaction dressed up as intellectual superiority, and frankly, it's embarrassing. I genuinely hope she rewatches her own video and learns from it. This may make her a few $100 right now, but it will age terribly. At the end of the day, I still want this conversation to be about what I've been trying to make it about from the beginning, about substance, about accountability, and uncomfortable truths that actually matter. Anyway, folks, you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.